All right. Why don't we, Ryan McFadden, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, I can kick things off. I only have one question for you, Coach. In your first, how important is it to have someone like a Dante Scott to provide leadership, especially you being to the program for the first time?
It's been really important. I think, especially as we go through league play, both him and Hakeem understanding the depth of the league, the various styles of the league. And Dante has been, he's been really good in practice with just getting everybody to understand the different level of physicality, the different level of competitiveness that the Big Ten brings.
Emily?
Hey, Kevin. I was just gonna ask about Ian Martinez. What are kind of your hopes for what he can be off the bench for you, and kind of how important is it to have a guy like that who can bring energy coming in, and what have you liked from him so far?
Well, no, I think what my goal for Ian eventually is for him to be a guy that we can depend on to be a 25 to 30 minute guy in the future, because I think the physicality he brings on the defensive end, I feel comfortable playing him at multiple spots on the floor. And I think, this year I really want him to become a guy I can depend on the defensive end, the lockdown guys at different spots. And I think that's kind of what he's brought so far in flashes of it. He just needs to become a little bit more consistent doing it. And I think he's getting there. I think every game he's getting a little better. I think every game I've gained more confidence in Ian. It's just a matter of him just doing it more on a consistent basis.
Chris Idle.
Hey, Coach, this is Chris Idle from Hermiston Radio. It was a pleasure to talk to you for the first time. Just talk about being 8-0, and what does that mean for you? Because have you ever started 8-0 in your career as a coach, even as your stops at Seton Hall?
I'm not sure if I ever have started 8-0. No, I haven't really thought about it, to be honest with you. I think being 8-0 is good for these guys more than anything. I think it's good for the program because building momentum and helps recruiting and just kind of everything that I've talked about. We're trying to do here. I just think, but more importantly, anything, it's just kind of validated to this team, the hard work that they've put in. Because again, I've said it numerous times, this is the hardest working team I've ever had. So the success they're having, I just think it just validates the hard work that they're doing.
And if I can follow up real quick about taking on Wisconsin on Tuesday, have you ever been to a hostile environment like Wisconsin before, or do you have anything in your history of your coaching to fall back on?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a head coach for 17 years, so if you've never been to Wichita State, Wichita State's one of the toughest places to play. I've played everywhere, so I know it's a great crowd. I just think that's the Big Ten. I think I thought Brad hit it on the head. We have 10 Big Ten road games, and we're gonna see 10 really tough environments.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, we'll go to Ross and then Adam.
Hey, Coach, you talked about Pat Emilian being, really important to this team. What was that process of recruiting him and deciding to bring him in as a piece on this team?
Yeah, when we built this roster, Pat was one of the last guys. We kind of went up and down and looked at it. And like I said, what I try to do is really try to make sure that we don't duplicate what we have on our roster. I think it's really important, especially in today's climate with the transfer portal. And we wanted guys, especially in my first year, I wanted guys that are high character, high IQ guys, and Pat was kind of still out there. And after I talked to Pat about 2 or 3 times recruiting him, I felt I really enjoyed his talking to him. He was a high character kid. He had played, even though he hadn't played high level basketball, he had played a ton of minutes. And then watching him on film, he was exactly kind of what we needed. We didn't have kind of a guy that could play 4 or 5 multiple positions. So he was the right fit. He was the right type of character. He was a great kid. And I thought he'd fit really in well with the rest of the roster.
And to go back in with more of the team as a whole, obviously I was pretty well against Tennessee, perimeter defense wise, obviously because they're a huge 3-point shooting team. Do you think that's a huge key, especially against these bigger teams that you're going to face down the road with the Big Ten?
Yeah. What was your question again, though? I apologize.
Just 3-point shooting defense, especially against, some of these bigger teams.
Yeah. I mean, I that's something that just because we're not an overly big team is that we need to defend the 3 and we need to shoot the 3 at a high level. No matter who we play against. I mean, like if you look at Wisconsin, obviously they shoot the ball very well, but man, you better play post defense and you better play physical. Or they're gonna grind you up. I think what's really cool about this league, which is really hard, is that there's so many different styles. I mean, you look at Illinois, who's running, jumping, 5 out. And then you come to Wisconsin, who kind of grinds you out. They're going to post up crowd, they're going to post up wall. And then you have, Hepburn out there shooting it, Klesmit shooting it. So really interesting style. So I think, one of our keys to defense is really trying to defend the 3 the best as possible.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, we'll go to Adam and then Dave Preston.
Hey, Kev, how you doing, buddy?
Wow, Adam Zagoria making it all the way down to Maryland. What?
Yeah,
Jesus. You guys must, are you getting bored in Jersey?
I'm a little bored. Yeah, I'm watching the college football selection show.
That would bore me too.
What are some of the biggest differences, Kev, just, between Maryland and Seton Hall for you, facilities, fans, whatever, and how much have you kind of paid attention to what Shaw's doing, and what do you think about how he's done?
I think the biggest difference at it is the size. I think I could fit, 4 Seton Hall campuses on Maryland's campus. We got 45,000 students. We got almost 450,000 alumni. And I think the area is so much different. So I just think the size of it has really been the biggest difference. I think Shaw's doing great. I think he's the right guy for that job. I know they struggle a little bit early, but that's natural. I think anytime you make that jump up, it takes a little time. And I think he's going to be a guy that's, like I said before, is going to lead Seton Hall to places that even PJ couldn't do. So I think he's doing a great job. It just, he's hit some bumps in the road, but he's the right guy for the job and he's going to be there for a long time.
What do you think about the NIL differences between maybe a place like Maryland, a place like Seton Hall? It seems like Seton Hall is just sort of getting started with that, and they don't have a collective yet. And, the bigger schools obviously have more resources for that.
I don't, NIL is NIL. I mean, I don't think it, we don't talk about NIL when we recruit. It really has never come up recruiting wise. We're not allowed to by Maryland state law. All NIL it's just brought kind of what kids are going to go to where kids were always going to go. Nothing's changed on that. It's just now it's just they're making money and kind of paying taxes on it. But I don't think NIL really hasn't affected recruiting wise. I think NIL has really affected the transfer market more than anything else. If you look at kind of what went down this summer, it's more or less, the guys going to Duke were always going to Duke. I mean, I could tell you where the top 20 guys are going to go in every class. That's never changed and won't change. You might have one guy every once in a while if you can afford to give a guy $1 million like football, but in basketball, it's just not like football. It's just, you still got to recruit the guys that you need. You still got to recruit the guys that fit your roster, that fit your university, that fit your system. The 3 guys that we signed, I mean, Deshaun, John and Jamie are 3 guys that fit our style, fit my personality. We never even talked about NIL with those guys. It's a non-factor for the type of guys they'll get it eventually, which is great. I think that's what's the really cool thing about it.
All right, one last thing while I try to squeeze it in. Big Ten, obviously one of the best leagues in the country. They've, kind of struggled in the tournament recently. Only 2 teams got to the Sweet 16 last year. Do you think, this year is a year where the Big Ten can send a couple teams deep?
Yeah, I mean, because I've been on the outside of it. I've only played 1 game in it. I think, the depth of this league, and I think every year, I think this league is going to have a chance to send guys to have teams win the national championship. I mean, I really think Illinois is that good. I mean, that was one of the better teams I've ever played against. And having our home crowd and having 17,000 go crazy I thought was a huge difference. So this league is the best basketball league. I don't even think it's comparable to anything, to be honest with you, top to bottom.
All right, my friend, good luck. Good talking to you.
Good to see you, Ed.
All right, we'll go to Dave, and then let's go to Ryan after that, because I know you're getting close to kickoff with the Ravens.
First off, Adam wins the Zoom with the Allman Brothers picture behind him. God, that is awesome. First and foremost, Kevin, conference play this early, within a month of when the season starts, what's the biggest challenge in playing? Even though every game counts the same, conference games mean a little bit more, especially when you stack things up in March. What's the biggest challenge in getting a team with so many new guys, so many different guys and styles that they come from, being on the same page for 2 high leverage games this month?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is, we have a different offensive package for conference play than we run for non-conference play. And I'm not, we actually, we're not prepared enough right now for Big Ten defense. So I think the hardest thing that I have had is that, some of the stuff that we run non-conference, we had to run against Illinois the other night. And I think it's one reason we struggled in the second half a little bit. It's just, they've seen our stuff. They know what we're going to run. They can jump on it. I think one of the things I've always tried to do is just have a different package for conference play. And eventually, once you get to February and March, everybody knows your stuff anyways. But at least the beginning of conference play, you're making teams adjust a little bit. So we've really focused a little bit more on just defending and being a little bit more aggressive on the defensive end, because conference, it's not a little bit more important. Conference games are totally so much more important. So I think the biggest thing is just trying to get these guys to understand. And again, we have an older team, which is nice. Dante's been great. Don Carey knows, he's been in the Big East. Jameer, they understand what conference games mean more than anything. So for the most part, we've really just kind of focused on being aggressive on the defensive end.
And if you could share with us a little bit about what impresses you with what you've seen with Wisconsin, Tyler Wall in particular, what makes them such a tough team to take on?
Oh man. I just, they remind me, probably the best compliment I can give them is they remind me of the Big Ten version of Villanova. They are super steady. They're not flashy. You're not going to watch them and be like, oh man, this team's great. And then the more you watch them, they're like, man, this team is really good. They do what they do really well. And that's what Villanova always did. Villanova was no tricks, no nothing. They just came down and did what they did. I think that's what makes Wisconsin so good, is they do what they do really well. Tyler Wall is, his motor is off the charts. He does it on both ends. I don't think he gets enough credit what he does on both ends. But then, they post up Wall and Crowell. And then you have Chucky Hepburn going off hitting 30-footers. So I just think they just do everything really, really consistent. They do what they do, and they don't go outside their lane, and they do it really well.
Thanks again. Safe travels.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan.
Coach, I was wondering, when you were recruiting Jameer Young to come back home, what about him that you felt fit what you were trying to build in your first year of Maryland?
I had talked to Hawk, Dante, and Juju, and they were staying. And really what we needed a point guard. And if you looked out there and you looked in, we knew, obviously when you get the job in April, you're not going to get any high school guys. But I wanted someone that was good, that was a high character kid. The biggest thing is I just didn't want to make a mistake on when you're kind of rebuilding or building your program. You got to make sure you do it with the type of kids that you constantly want to coach for the rest of your time that you're at your place. And the greatest compliment I can give Jameer is that he is one of the highest character kids I've been around. He's a tremendous young man. He is an off the chart hard worker. And that's, for us, was the most important thing, was getting a guy that was going to lead the team to be someone with unbelievably high character. And that's kind of what Jameer is, and has, what he's really been more than anything is he's really been a great foundation for this program.
And to follow up, did you expect for him to click this early the way he has, for everything to click together the way it has for him?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? I was hoping it would. I think the biggest thing was, obviously he played much more like a combo guard at Charlotte. He scored a little bit more. They played a different type of offense. I think that was one of the reasons he wanted to come play here, was get a chance to really play point guard. And I think, we've really been on him since the time he got on here, of just changing his personality a little bit to be a little bit more of a dog. And I think he's starting to understand. I think he's starting to get it, Ryan, to be honest with you. And I didn't expect it to happen this quick, but I'm glad it did.
All right, we'll go to Ben and then Nikki.
Coach, with this team now, 8-0, getting a ton of national love, given the maturity and kind of the intensity and the buy-in that we've talked about with this team, are you finding it easy or difficult, or are there any challenges to kind of keep this team level-headed with all this outside hype coming in?
I haven't really seen anything different, in practice, to be honest with you. I think we've kind of had the same kind of focus. I don't think the schedule allows us to kind of lose our focus. Obviously Wisconsin, but then you turn around, you have Tennessee and UCLA coming up right after that. So I think these guys have been super focused on the fact that they understand we're playing a really good Wisconsin team. We have to know what we're doing against Wisconsin. So I think the schedule, although it's brutal, has helped us keep our focus, and kind of stay in our lane that we've been doing.
Coach, you've had a couple different players, each game seems like one or two different guys show up and put up 20 points. Scoring wise, is it easier to kind of rely on a different amount of guys to go and get points, or would you find it easier if, one or two step up and consistently provide that scoring?
No, I think that's what's nice about this team. And I think it's one reason why we're off to such a good start is we don't have to rely on just one guy. I mean, Hakeem has probably been the most consistent and steady guy. I mean, I hate to say he's like my safety blanket. I know he's going to go out there and just do Hakeem things. But I think, like a guy like Don Carey, who hasn't shot well at home, but has shot well the 3 games on the road. And then, I know Dante can get 30 at any time, the way Jameer's playing. So I think, if I was an opposing coach against us, I always feel it's harder to play against a team that you don't know who's going to get you than a guy that is out there getting 30, and you have to stop that guy from getting 30.
All right, we'll go Joshua and then Judith.
Hey, Coach. You just mentioned Don Carey. You mentioned that he doesn't shoot well at home, but what intangibles does he bring, and what are your thoughts on him for this beginning part of the season?
Yeah, I mean, Don hasn't shot well. Don's going to shoot well at home, or I'm going to put him I'm going to kill him. Don, to me, Don's one of those guys that I know he's always going to make the right plays, the right reads. And he's a guy that's always on the court that everyone always has to know that he's there. So I think he's played really well defensively. I think he's played at a higher level defensively than he ever has. I think he's, he always makes and is in the right spot. I just trust Don that I know he's going to make the right basketball play. And I think he's played really well. He just hasn't shot the basketball overly well at home, but I know he will, and I have great confidence in that he will.
And to follow up, he's one of a few graduate students on the team. What's it like having that veteran presence on the team?
It's great. I mean, and you guys, it's nice having older guys because you can actually have real conversations with them. I laugh because I'll talk to Don or Pat, who been in college for 30 years, and then you call on you go see a kid or make a recruiting call to like a high school sophomore or junior, and it's like you can't have the same conversations. It's nice having older guys. They understand it, they've been through it, they get it. I think emotionally they stay so much more steady than the younger guys. So it's been nice from a multitude of reasons.
All right, Judith.
Yeah. I guess my main question is, how have you guys been able to kind of keep the rebounding numbers like relatively close? Like you and your opponents have had like close and even like rebound numbers so far this season.
Yeah. Schedule has helped a little bit with it. We've played some teams that aren't quite as big, to be honest with you. I have to be honest. So I think some of the we've hurt some of the smaller teams with our rebounding. We've also shot a pretty good percentage from the field, so that always kind of helps with your rebounding numbers when you're shooting basketball a little bit better than your opponent. And we've kind of focused on it. It's been a focus of mine just because of we're not the biggest team, but Hawk's a big guard. Jameer is a heck of a rebounding point guard. Dante's tough. He's going to go in there and get some. And I think Juju is I think he's been phenomenal down low.
And do you think you guys are going to be able to kind of keep those rebounding numbers like relatively even as like the Big Ten schedule ramps up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's our biggest challenge. And that's one of my main focuses is to make sure that, not only are we defensive rebounding, but I think something that's helped us is offensive rebounding. So I think in league play, it's really hard to offensive rebound. If you look at teams like Michigan State, Wisconsin, how well they box out and how tight their defenses are. But that is definitely one of our main focuses.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll go coach, get to practice.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Dave. Good to see